So my goal in this video is to tell you and show you three hobbies that are going to make you more likable in social situations. But doing these three hobbies are going to make people actually want to talk to you and actually want to be your friend. Because here's the thing, there's so many scenarios in middle school, high school, and even early university for me where it was just super hard to make friends. Like I could literally tell whenever I would go into group situations, people didn't care about me. People didn't care about me at all. It was very easy to just sense that people did not like me. And I wanted to be extremely likable because I wanted to create this big social setting. I wanted to create this big friend group. I wanted to have this social life. I knew how important connections and friends were. But every single time, I just didn't seem likable in social situations. I remember this one time I was sitting at a lunch table in high school with a group of not necessarily friends, but acquaintances. I would hang out with them once in a while. I would hang around these people, but they wouldn't necessarily be friends I would hang out with. But I was at lunch eating at this table with these friends. And I remember I kind of just noticed, I just decided one day, you know what? Let's see what happens if I don't say anything. Will anybody notice? Will anybody actually ask me conversations instead of me asking them? And I'm just listening to their conversations throughout this 30-minute lunchtime in high school. They're talking about a bunch of things. Usually I try to be the obnoxious one and make a bunch of noise because I try to cope being shy and say a bunch of things, but this time I didn't do that. And this conversation at this table just kept going and kept going, and at the end of the day nobody said a word to me. It just felt like nobody even cared. No one even noticed that I was there. So from this moment, from these scenarios where I just felt invisible conversation, I started doing a ton of research on social skills. I started doing a ton of research on YouTube on how to be more likable, how to talk to people. But throughout all this research, there's three hobbies that I learned that make you instantly likable. And not only it's going to make you likable, it's going to allow you to say a bunch of things in conversation. Now you might be thinking, okay, why hobbies specifically? Why not certain lines? Why don't you talk about certain things? Hobbies are really important, and the reason why I'm showing you hobbies is because hobbies are things that people do. Everybody has a hobby. And so if you can connect and do certain hobbies that are related to a bunch of people, you're going to find more similarities. You're going to be more similar to people. People like being similar to lots of people. So without further ado, I'm going to show you these hobbies and then I'm going to tell you step by step on how to improve them, how to start building and start getting into these hobbies. Then the most effective way so you can start being more likable and have more friends and social skills. The first hobby that is extremely underrated is going to the gym. Now you might be thinking right now, oh, this is easy, gym, you're being healthy, it keeps you in shape. It's pretty obvious. But I'm not talking about the gym in a physical aspect, okay? We all know how important the gym is. The gym keeps you in shape and everything. However, the gym is an extremely underrated hobby that you should start doing if you don't, but if you do, you should take it to a whole nother level. And the reason why you should is because you should use this as an advantage because almost everyone goes to the gym. So if you're someone that doesn't go to the gym right now, think about it if you actually started going to the gym and actually being invested into the gym. Because I'm not talking about just going 2 to 3 days a week, you just run 15 minutes on the treadmill, you just do a couple of workouts here and there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about investing in the gym, going at least 4 to 5 times, knowing everything about the gym, knowing a bunch of information about the gym. And the reason why you should do that is because, like I said, everybody's into it. So if you're someone that doesn't go, imagine how many people you would be able to connect with if you went. In my personal experience, I have done workouts since I was 12 years old. So when I was 12 years old, I started doing push-ups, squats, lots of body weight exercises because I couldn't afford a gym at 12 years old. So I did that. And then when I was 18, I finally got my first membership at the gym. And so I've been going to the gym since I was 18 years old. So I've been lifting for a while. But from someone going into university, one of the biggest universities in my country, which is the United States, I noticed that it's so easy to connect with people talking about the gym. I remember this one time I was at this new job and I didn't know anybody, it was kind of my first day going and I see this girl at my job, and I introduced myself. I said, "Hey," and one of the first things that we connected on was the gym. And because I know so much about the gym and have experience in the gym, I was able to pull out so many of my experiences and knowledge from going to the gym with this lady. Because this girl at my work, she was also into gym, but she wasn't as invested as me. She had just, she'd just been training for like maybe like 2 to 3 years. She was asking for advice, but because I was interested in the gym. And this hobby is why you should use it to your advantage. You're able to pull so many things. So I started talking about how long I've been lifting, protein powders, supplements, pre workouts, fitness influencers that I watch, which gym that I go to at the university, where I'm from, because we're talking about location. You see, there's so many things that are invested into the gym, cooking as well, foods, what foods that I like. It's so easy to pull so many things from this hobby in the gym. So it's very obvious to think, okay, the gym, it's an exercise, it's very easy. It's kind of obvious, but because the gym and exercising is so common, you're able to connect with people so much and find similarity. And another thing on top of going to the gym and why it's such an underrated hobby, if you haven't started doing it, it's because it's something that it's ongoing. You can talk about the gym more than one time. It's not just one thing you can talk about once. So, for example, I have this core group that I go to. It's a club that I have at my university. And, I have some favorites in the group, right? There's some favorites that I'm able to talk more about than others. But with the others that I don't talk to as much, it is very easy to talk about the gym and fitness with them because everything with fitness is ongoing. So, for example, these people that I already know, I talk about them about previously about gym experience and all that. But then if I meet them for like a couple more weeks in the future, I can ask them, "Hey, how's your fitness training going? Oh, are you still going to that one gym? Have you taken any more protein powder, or have you bought any more supplements?" So going to the gym is a very underrated hobby, not because it's something everybody does, which makes you more likable, but it's connected to so many things like the social media, the influencers, the supplements, the cooking, the locations. You're able to pull so many things out of it. The second hobby that I highly recommend is watching sports. Now, you might be thinking right now, oh, sports are a waste of time. I hate sports. I'm not into it. And I totally agree. I totally agree because I used to be like this as well. But let me tell you this, I'm going to try to persuade you to try to change your aspect and your mindset on sports, because sports are pretty important and they're a good way and a good advantage to use if you're trying to improve your social life. So, for example, it's pretty obvious that sports connect a lot of people, okay? Think about whatever location you're in. There's probably a really popular sports, maybe multiple. And so imagine this. Imagine if you were able to learn a bunch of knowledge on that sport, watch these sports, know the history of it. Imagine how many fans and people at your school, people at your work that you'd be able to connect with. And this is something kind of like the gym, it's ongoing. Because sports, there's always media. There's always times where you're like, oh, have you seen this transfer? Have you seen this play? Do you know they're renovating the stadium? There's so many things to talk about. And if you're someone that knows the sport, you're able to say so many things, and people are gonna say, "Oh, he knows the sport. He knows this team. He supports this sport and team. I'm gonna talk to him about it." In my personal experience, this was a game changer. Learning sports was a game changer for me, and I'm gonna try to tell you on why you should use sports to your advantage. Watching sports, there's lots of times in my life where it was really hard to connect with people because I was a loser. I didn't do much. I didn't have much experience. But that all changed at 12 years old for me, because when I was 12 years old, I started playing soccer and I absolutely fell in love with the sport. So I was playing every single day. I had this dream and inspiration to become a pro. So I started playing every single day, learning about the players, learning about the history, playing FIFA, playing video games. And because of this, I got so much knowledge and so much experience. And watching soccer and sports overall, the sport overall, helped me so much. And once that happened, not only did I get physically fit, because obviously going to the gym, playing sports, that's an obvious thing. But because I'm a part of that, I'm able to connect with so many people about the sport, about the players and everything. To this day, soccer is my favorite sport. Soccer is my favorite sport whatsoever, or football, whatever you want to call it. But I notice that every single person that I'm able to connect with so easily, they know about soccer. Because if I see them and they know about soccer, I know I have so many things to pull out. I can literally ask them, "Oh, have do you play the sport? Have you seen this team? Did you go to that team?" And then I can also mention personal stories. Oh, I saw this game in a professional stadium. I saw this transfer. I think these players are doing too much. The coach isn't good. So there's so many things, just like the gym, you can pull out and connect with other people. And you might be thinking right now, oh, I don't know how to get into this sport. There's not enough time. There's not much I can do. The easiest thing that I can tell you to do, which is probably the most fun way to get into watching sports and understanding sports, is to play video games. Okay. So right now I'm going to tell you step by step on how to actually get into these hobbies. Okay. So with basket or with sports, okay, you're gonna want to pick a sport that's really popular, the most popular within your location. So I live in the United States, so with basketball, for United States that'd be basketball and American football. And if you're like in Europe or maybe if you're in South America or somewhere else, it's most likely football or soccer, as we call it in the United States. But you're going to want to pick a popular sport because the most popular sport is watched by lots of people in your location. Okay, so once you know about that sport, pick it, and then you're going to want to play or watch some sort of video or video games around this sport. So my personal experience, since I started playing soccer, right, I played lots of FIFA, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically like a soccer game, but I control the players, I control the teams, I can play whatever teams I want to. But because I played hours of this video game, I am able to learn about the real life players which are in that game, the teams, the rules of the game, and this really helped my knowledge of the sport. And that is probably one of the best ways that you can do to start getting into sports and watching them. And like I said before, it's a really underrated way to connect with more people. The third hobby that I'm going to recommend for you to do and start getting into is reading. So I know when I said reading is extremely broad. You're probably thinking, what book should I read? Why do I have to read? This is a waste of time. But you get so much charisma when you have a certain range of knowledge around so many topics. So I'm going to give you this example. During the beginning of the school year, which is around 5 months ago, it was the start of the new semester. I get into these groups, right? There's this class that I'm in, the teacher assigns us to like groups of like 4 to 5 people. And as I get into my group, the teacher's talking a while, and suddenly the door moves open. Someone comes to the door. And I kid you not, the most unattractive guy in the room comes in. And I'm not saying this to be mean, I'm not saying this to call him out, but this guy was conventionally unattractive, okay? You could just tell by his hygiene, he looked very dirty, he didn't dress very well. He came in the room and he was actually assigned to my group. And I don't discriminate. I try to respect people, but I saw the other kids in my group. They're like, "Oh, like, what's he doing? He's kind of dirty, like kind of screwing the chair away." But I was just like, "Oh, like, who cares, right?" But as soon as he sat down, the teacher started asking more questions, about the lecture, started teaching us. And this kid that was unattractive, he started raising his hand at every single question. Every single question that the teacher was asking in the class, he would answer. He would always have something to say. And it got to the point where the teacher was like, "Oh, come on, man. Like, oh, I see you. Like, we're just going to let someone else answer." And I was pretty impressed. And in a way, that just gave him like so much charisma. And later on in the year, when we would talk about topics in the class, he would talk to us about so many things. This guy was super smart. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you're able to read books, read knowledge, read news, that's going to make you so charismatic and attractive. Because imagine knowing so many things on how the world works, about topics. Expanding knowledge is honestly key. And the best thing for you to do to start reading, I'm not going to recommend you any books, but the best thing that you can do is start understanding news, understanding government things that are going on in the world, because there's something to always talk about. You can talk about these things to people who are older. You can talk about things that happen, when you're at the store, learning how economics work. For example, I didn't know exactly how gas prices in the United States went up, and when I went to go get gas with friends, I can now mention why that is. When somebody says, "Oh, gas prices are so high," I can mention inflation and everything that's happening within my country's economy. So just reading, not necessarily books, but having a broad knowledge of how the world works, how everything works is key. And the best thing that you can do to start doing this is using ChatGPT. I know that's kind of cringy, but if you can really dial it down and be specific, be like, chat, what are the best things I can do to start learning about the world? Teach me about history, philosophy, economics, tech, psychology. Get a broad range of things. And it's easy. You don't have to be this smart guy. You don't have to spend hours, nor do you have to spend hours on these hobbies. Just understand how the world works, and these hobbies will bring everything to you. Not only are you getting experience from these, but you're able to pull so many things out of each one of these hobbies and connect with more people. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.